meeting.
Okay, am I chair? I don't, is
Yes,
Arthur?
you are. Yes.
Okay, all right, okay, let's see.
Actually, Irene, I will quickly just read the instructions because this,
Right.
for a Zoom meeting.
Yep.
That this meeting is being held pursuant to Chapter 417 of New York State laws of 2021, which essentially codified the executive orders during the pandemic, which allows public bodies to meet and take action without permitting in-person public access to meetings, and authorizes these meetings and public hearings to be held remotely by conference call or similar service, provided the public has the ability to view or listen, and that such meetings are recorded and later transcribed. Tonight's meeting is viewable on LMC TV, channel 35 on FiOS, channel 76 on Optimum, and online at lmctv.org. Okay, Irene.
All right, let's see. I haven't done this in a while. Welcome to the Town of Mamaroneck Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I guess there are 5 of us, correct? So we don't have any,
I have a quorum.
we've got a quorum, good. So, is there anything else? We can just, I guess I'd make a motion to open the meeting.
Yeah, you can, but really we just open each public hearing separately.
Okay, fine. So should we just go ahead and open the first first matter?
Yes, before you do, Francine, has this application number 1, case number 3249, has this been duly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Thank you.
Application number 1, case number 3249, Adam Holland and Paula Davis, 28 Country Club Drive, requesting a variance to install a central air conditioning unit on the premises located at 28 Country Club Drive and known on the tax assessment map as block 229, lot 52. Motion to open?
Hello, this is Adam Holland. How are you?
1 second. Is anybody going to open this?
Yeah, no, make a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Go ahead, Adam.
Hello, how are you? I'm Adam Holland. I can see you. I don't know if you can see me, but
No, we can't.
On the bottom of your screen on the left-hand side,
hold on.
video. Click
There
on
we
it.
go. Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Nice to see you all.
okay.
Am I presenting the case?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought, okay, so I have a wall-mounted Mitsubishi condenser being installed, or I want to install on the side of my house for some new work that was done. And it is a few inches off of I believe, off of the variance, the 15 feet. I'm at, I believe, hold on a second. I apologize. I thought you had this information in front of you, so I apologize. There's 14 feet, 1 inches. That's how much space it would be away from the existing lot line.
Right, where 15 feet is required, so your request is less than a foot.
Right. That's correct.
Adam, I'm looking at the paperwork you submitted, and the survey that you have, I have a hard time reading that dimension to where I think it's going to be, which is right next to the other AC units. I see one dimension of like 10'8" to the front of maybe the step platform.
The 10'8" is towards the street. That's an existing stairway. Then you have an 12 feet and 3/4, 12 3 3/4. Those are existing AC condensing units on a pad.
Okay, I apologize. The drawing that I am looking at does not have the 12.3 or the 12.4, I guess is what you just referenced.
Yeah.
Okay, so so according to the drawing I'm looking at, there are 2
AC units?
Yes, condenser units there. One is 12 feet and 3/4. One is 12 3 and a half, 12 feet 3 inches and a half. And then going back towards the back of the house is where on the wall, this new
Right.
condenser will be mounted. And that is 14, and the wall is 15 feet. This gives it to stick out to, the distance would be 14 feet, 1 inch from the.
All right, I really just wanted to make sure that you had the right dimensions and you weren't just, but if you have a 15 feet to the house and you are backing out, that it'll have to be mounted to the house and
Correct.
it's only 11 inches
Correct.
deep.
Steve, did you get the plans?
Yeah.
Because the inset A4 of the detail on the top of the plans on
Got
A1.
it?
Yeah, the
All right,
inset.
I was looking at the survey.
Yeah,
Yes.
because it's also a little confusing to me because it's showing 1411 to the side yard setback line and then another arrow to 15 feet. And then there's a drawn line to 14.1. And it seems to be indicating that the air conditioning compressor is going to be behind the side yard setback. So I think your point is accurate. I don't know which is the right measurement here. I mean, the other thing is, did anyone else receive in their package any of the specifications on the unit, including a DB rating, the unit information and so forth? I don't seem to have anything here. No details
No, I
on
didn't
the,
get that.
No.
I do have another question, which is the two
I believe it's
existing,
actually, I think it's actually in his paperwork, in the plans.
But also, I can tell you that the sound pressure reading for cooling is 52, and the sound pressure for heating is 55.
in the plan,
On A2,
in this, oh, here, specification, got it. I didn't pull
A2 on
back.
the inside, it's kind of hidden.
Yeah, I didn't pull back the last panel.
I can't hear a thing.
I have a question, which is the two existing air conditioning units that are on pads. Is there a variance for those? Because they would appear to be in the setback as well.
I'm not
These
sure.
are pre-existing.
I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead,
believe it's pre-existing.
Okay,
And the
Oh.
only question I would have for the applicant would be, did you look at any other alternatives that wouldn't require a variance?
Yes, we looked at everything possible, absolutely.
Okay, so, because this does look like the most practical location, consistent with the balance of the other air conditioning compressors that are there. And the Mitsubishi units are a very low dB rated unit.
Yeah.
They'll actually be muffled by your existing units that are there.
No, exactly, that's why, yes, I wish we put these in, these are better than what's there, so yeah.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
no. Anyone else have other questions from the board?
No, thank you.
Thank you, John. Do we have any other questions from the board? Okay,
I'll make a motion.
well, we need to ask the audience.
No,
You can do the motion, but any questions from the audience?
You're muted, Richie.
Thank you.
You're gonna have to bear with me. I gotta,
Yeah,
I
fine.
was having technical difficulties, so I gotta try to sign into the town still.
I guess in the meantime, Francine, have any emails or letters come in concerning this matter?
None.
I guess if any other one who's participating wants to put their hand up, if they had a comment, we can see that.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like there's anyone, actually, there's no one else.
Yeah, there's nobody, I'm not seeing anything either.
All right, then. Stephen, do you want to go ahead with the motion?
Sure.
Should make a motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, yes, make motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
For file number 3249, Mr. Holland, 28 Country Club Drive, was denied. An application was denied to install an air conditioning condensing unit on the premises located at 28 Country Club Drive, Section 2, Block 29, Parcel 52 was disapproved on the following grounds. The air conditioning condenser has a side yard of 14.08 feet, where 15 feet is required. And pursuant to section 240-35B, 2A. The board finds that the benefit to the applicant from the granting of this variance outweighs any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community. In reaching this conclusion, the board considered the following factors: whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created. The board finds that an undesirable change will not be produced and the character will not be impacted. The air conditioning unit is a slim line Mitsubishi unit with low dB rating, located next to two existing air conditioning compressor units on the outside. And the new proposed AC compressor will just extend into the side yard setback by less than 1 foot. So this is this is going to be a low volume. It's not going to make a loud noise, so it's not going to change anything to the neighborhood. Whether the applicant can achieve their goals via a reasonable alternative, which does not involve the necessity of an area variance. The board finds that this is an appropriate place to add a third compressor unit next to the other two existing AC units on the mechanical side of the house. So it makes sense that they go in the vicinity of the existing AC units. Whether the variance is substantial, the variance is not substantial. It's just extending 1 foot into the side yard setbacks. Whether the variance will have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. The board finds that this is a quieter AC unit than the existing two, so it will have a negligible impact on the environment based on sound and will not create any additional runoff. So there is no significant impact on the environment or whether there has been a self-created difficulty. It is in that they want to add another air conditioning unit, but it is non-determinative in this matter. And for the reasons stated above, the granting of the variance is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the town of Mamaroneck zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Second,
I'll second.
thank you. Vote,
You
Aye.
gonna call the roll, or you want us to just hand vote?
Put our hands up.
Aye.
No, sorry, just because we're gonna have a written transcript.
Okay, all right.
Roll, please.
Do you want to do a roll call?
Irene,
Yes.
Robin. Can't hear you, but you said you say it. Jonathan,
I'm mute.
Yes, sorry.
Stephen,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your
Enjoy
time.
your air conditioning
Yes.
Call tomorrow when we'll explain.
for this
the-
winter. Good
All right, thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody. Thank you. Have a good night.
night.
You too. Thanks.
Application number 2, case number 3250. JAF Builders Corp., 67 Rockland Avenue, requesting a variance to install a standby generator on the premises located at 67 Rockland Avenue and known on the tax assessment map as block 223, lot 452.
Before we open the public hearing, can you confirm whether this was duly noticed?
It was duly noticed.
Thank you.
Right, motion to open the public hearing.
Can I
Second.
just say one thing also? Anybody that has any questions that's watching can email me at rpolcari, Polcari, @townofmamaroneckny.org.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Oh, Jo-
Hi.
Josh, you have to say your name.
Yes,
My name is Josh Friedfertig from JAF Builders Corp. I am the builder of this home, not the current owner. The current owner is Ross Gottler. I am representing Ross on this matter.
okay, why don't you go ahead.
Okay, so the variance that I'm requesting is for a standby generator that I'm proposing to be encroaching on the front setback. One of the reasons why I'm proposing it in this location was because at the time of planning, when I proposed this house, I believe one of the neighbors on Crest in the rear of the property had requested that I guess no mechanicals would be in the rear of the property, which we adhered to. So that gave us, I guess, three other sides to work with as far as putting condenser units and a potential generator within the building envelope. So in this case, I think the location that I'm proposing for the generator is the most logical one in this circumstance. So I believe in the front setback, you have a 30-foot setback from the road. I'm requesting that the generator encroach and be 25 feet from the road. So encroaching 5 feet.
Actually, just to clarify, your setback is from the property line, not the road.
Yes, sorry about that, from the property line.
But it is worth noting here that there is a large
Yes.
right of way here, and there's significant distance from the property line to the road. So it would be well over 30 feet from the road.
That's correct, yes. I guess just, if I'm not mistaken, the town code is just requiring all mechanicals to be within the building envelope. Is that what I understand?
Correct. They need to meet the same setback as a principal building.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Had you looked at the location in the side yard on the other side? Is that, because it looks to me like your electrical feed and your electrical panel are probably on the side coming in from Rockland, correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
The gas meter's right there too.
Right.
Right,
So you have a significant expense, I would assume, if you had a pipe and drag a primary over to the other side.
That's correct. And I guess I just had figured, encroaching on that side on the 10-foot setback, that would be an issue with the neighbor on that at that location. So I assumed that the one by the garage would be more of a, I guess, an area that would be unobtrusive to the neighborhood.
Okay, and for the board's edification, I passed by this site. It does seem to be the most practical area. As I stated before, there's a significant buffer in the right of way to the road, which then you have the road across to the other house. So you probably have 70 feet, to the most adjacent neighbor that's there. And this would be the least obtrusive space that I could see and the most practical for the applicant.
Yeah, I agree. I had the same thought. Any other questions?
I assume that neighbor hasn't said anything about the placement of this there.
No, not to my knowledge.
All right, any other questions? Or Rich, should we check with our audience?
I might have missed it, but did you open the public hearing?
Yes.
There's no questions from the audience.
All right, yes. I need my protocol back. Do we close the public hearing now, or it gets closed when we vote?
You close the public hearing and then you make a motion.
Okay, fine. So motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
Right. Anyone want to do the,
I can do it.
oh, thank you, Jonathan.
Case 3250 JF Builders Corporation, on behalf of the homeowner at 67 Rockland Avenue, is seeking a standby generator that will have a 25-foot front yard setback with 30 feet is required pursuant to section 240-37B sub 1 in an R10 district. In the board reviewing this application, took into account the balancing of the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. In doing so, it determined whether or not an undesirable change in neighborhood character or nearby properties. The board finds there will be no effect on the neighborhood. This is a standby generator. It will only exercise for about 15 minutes once a week. So it shouldn't have any effect. It'll only operate then during times where power has been lost in the area. Standby generators are a very normal thing within the town. People have become accustomed to hearing them during power emergencies. Whether the benefit can be achieved by other means feasible to the applicant. This is a property with 2 front yards. So it actually is being placed in what would normally be a side yard, but because it fronts on a street, it's considered a front yard. So it looks like, and this is where the power comes into the house, where the existing gas comes into the house. So it's clearly the most practical place to put it. In the rear yard, it would also require a variance. Plus, there was a restriction previously placed that no mechanicals be placed in the rear yard. Whether the request is substantial, the board finds it's not substantial. The reasons already stated, mostly that standby generators are a normal thing within the town. Whether the request will have any adverse physical or environmental effects. The only environmental effect is potentially sound, but that will only happen during a power emergency or during a time where it is exercising, and it won't be substantial. Whether the request is self-created, the request is clearly self-created as the applicant seeks to have a standby generator, but is non-determinative in this matter. I would like to put one condition on the variance, and that condition be that the generator only exercise during the hours of 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And during weekdays as to not to disturb the neighbors. Respectfully submitted.
Jonathan, because this is for an encroachment of a front yard setback, you spoke primarily in terms of noise, but can you just add in a couple, like, either impact on neighborhood character, anywhere you want, just in terms of the encroachment, whether you think has any impact visually or? The
generator should have no impact because other than how any other generator would normally be placed that conform within the setback, because the property is burdened with a large right of way. So the actual distance from the street to the generator will be well over the 30 feet that would normally be prescribed within the zoning as allowed without a variance.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Francine, do you want to take the vote?
We
Second.
need a second.
Oh,
Second,
oh, thank you.
Okay. Irene,
Yes,
Jonathan,
Aye.
Robin,
yes,
Carol,
yes,
Steve,
yes,
thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Station number 3, case number 3251, Robin 14 Dean Place, requesting a variance to legalize an as-built addition on the premises located at 14 Dean Place and known on the tax assessment map as block 505, lot 400.
Francine, can you state for the record whether this application was duly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
all right, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
second,
Hi, Mark Musticato, RMG Associates Architects, representing Mr. and Mrs. Perusnik at 14 Dean Place. So I can share my screen if you like. I think that would probably help.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and do that. So we are requesting a variance to be able to close out the permit and CO for an addition that was built on this house in 1986. That addition is in this area right here. A variance was granted to build that addition. It was a variance for a total of 2 side yards, and that was for the combination of the existing non-conforming side yards that are here. You can see you have a 3.1, 3.2, 3.8 to the deck on the existing house and deck that were there when the addition was added. And the addition was shown to be complying with the 8-foot side yard setback on the right side of the house. I'm going to go through a couple of pictures of the house. This is the addition that was added again back in 1986. And looking at that again from the driveway, front of the house, and then in the rear of the house, you see the existing deck, and then again, this room that was added. So in doing some research on the plans of the addition, what appears to have happened is, here's a site plan from that original set of plans. So you see, again, this was the existing house, the existing deck, and the proposed addition, and it showed that it would meet the 8-foot setback. However, if you look at the floor plans of the building, and I'm going to scroll to that, it showed all the dimensions on the floor plan as being plus or minus. You see, there's a width here of the addition of 17 feet 4 inches plus or minus, and other plus or minus dimensions for each different area on the width of the addition. So that basically implies, although it's not stated anywhere on these plans, that someone before they built this would have had the 8-foot setback staked out, checked it out, and made sure that they met that setback, and didn't hold these dimensions that are plus or minus. When in fact, from doing some field measuring, when we were retained by Ms. Peruznik, we found that actually the addition was built with these dimensions of 17 feet 4 inches, and that is why it doesn't comply. That unfortunately was not the right dimension, and therefore it does not comply with the side yard setback. So we're requesting on that side a 6.7 foot setback. And I'll go back to the survey for a second. 1.3 feet on that side. In the denial, it was also brought up that the house exceeds the allowable coverage, and that these are non-conforming setbacks. These items, the existing house, the existing deck, they were there when this addition was built. For whatever reason, coverage wasn't addressed in the original application. I believe the coverage regulations existed back in 1986. So I don't know why that wasn't brought up, but they didn't add anything that exceeded, the coverage that was proposed back in 1986. As far as why we're here now, basically, and speaking to Mr. and Mrs. Peruznik, they had some kind of communication breakdown basically at the end of the project with the contractor, and for years were unaware that the addition was not closed out and there was no CO. So they found out a few years ago that that is the case. And Mr. Peruznik had some health issues, had some back surgery, and that delayed them getting to this basically. So, that's now how they got to this point basically. So when they were told they needed a new survey to close out the permit and get the CO, they had the survey done here by Richard Spinelli. You see the survey, and that's how it came up that this does not in fact meet the setbacks. So as far as character of the neighborhood, again, this is something that was built with a permit. It's been a part of the character of the neighborhood essentially since the late 1980s. This is the minimum variance that will relieve their hardship. The really only thing they could do is rebuild this addition and cut down the width of it, which is really not practical. There was no intent to, violate the setback. They were unaware that it didn't meet the setback until this survey was done. And so you can see this was done recently, basically, I think just this year. Yes.
How did you get to the coverage number?
I'm sorry?
How did you get to the coverage number?
Um,
I don't see it. I don't see a zoning chart, and I don't see a calculation for what was?
Rich Pocari came up with the coverage number.
No, I told you approximate coverage number and you told me that you checked it and that's what you got, sir.
Okay, yeah, well, I measured it off the survey.
What items did you include within the coverage?
All the impervious surface, which is what the code counts, right?
And Richard, you didn't have anywhere in, well, let me ask the question to the applicant.
Sure.
The plans that you provided as part of this presentation,
Mhm.
where did you get those plans?
From I got these from the owner. I first went to the building department and, researched the records of what's on file. And then once Mr. Prusnik retained us, he had a copy of the plans also. So this is a copy of those plans. I made a copy of his plan. So you
But
can see
these don't
this,
look
like
like
this
they're-
is the zoning
these
chart.
don't look like a stamped copy to me.
I'm sorry?
These don't look like a stamped copy to me.
I don't know. I don't think they are, but it's the same plan. I do know that. And this is. the
Well,
zoning-
because what I'm looking at is things, for instance, like the driveway, which were included perhaps in the coverage. The driveway is different than I'm looking at that's in this plan. It may also, doesn't indicate that that was necessarily a paved surface. That could have been gravel, not asphalt. There's now a significantly larger asphalt coverage area than is shown on these plans.
Mhm.
There's a reason, I'm trying to get to understand why the previous zoning board here, who had approved only for setbacks, didn't look at coverage. You're making an assumption it was an oversight. I'm not seeing any evidence that's being presented here that would show that. I'm seeing evidence that someone just had a set of plans that may have been preliminary and not the plans that went before the building department and were
Well, this
ultimately
is-
approved.
This is the site plan. This is the plan that went to the building department.
Just so
I
you know,
didn't make
John-
copies of the stamp plan, but I do have it. I happen to have.
Jonathan,
I can stop the screen share and show you the stamp plan if you want to do that. Want me to do that? I'll hold
What
it
do
up.
you want to, what do you want to say, Rich?
these plans are pretty similar, are about what is on the regular plan, on the original plans from the
This is
80s.
the same plan.
That is one thing that jumped out at me that made me ask about the lot coverage, was because the driveway was different.
Because one way of reducing the variance that would be required was be restoring the driveway. And that's why I'm curious about the calculations and how much that would take out of the lot coverage if this was brought back to what must have been originally presented, which was a much smaller plan for coverage.
Well, I mean, you can see where the garage door is, so you could cut out a section of asphalt here. I don't know. It would reduce it. I don't think it's a very, very substantial difference. But yes, it would reduce it. So, I mean, I just believe that it must have been an oversight because it seemed to me that it was substantially similar to what was proposed back in 1986.
An oversight or completely disregarded, which is perhaps also the reason why this was never presented to close out a C of O.
Well, I don't think that's the case. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out something here. We are very sensitive as a board, and we have actually, in many, many cases, refused to significantly allow for the increase in lot coverage. There are impact issues, related to coverage. When a plan is done to deal with runoff, adding infiltrators and other items, they expect a certain amount of pervious surface that can be there. Normally when you would provide a plan, you would provide a drainage plan that would be reviewed for its impact.
Well, you understand we're not proposing a plan that we didn't draw this plan. We're not proposing to build.
But I don't know that I'm seeing any testimony here to address the potential environmental issue to say that this additional lot coverage has been addressed, that the current infiltrators and drainage system are out there that are adequate for moving the water away, from the property. Those are the kinds of things that I would look for.
Jonathan, I'm looking in the code book, and under lot coverage, it does say that note was added in 1996.
96.
The 35%.
Okay, so that's why it wasn't.
I don't know that that doesn't mean that it didn't exist prior to that. But it was modified at least in 96.
And probably if this had been closed out back in 86, this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
Maybe
But
I'll ask
perhaps
Lisa.
that speaks to why we don't have that information on the plans that were submitted back in
Right.
1986.
No, that makes sense.
Another observation concerning the existing driveway. If you look at this plan, the one that we received, there's the picture, the drawing of the that shows that driveway. The
Mhm.
proposed- But then right next to it is a rendering of the front facade of the drive, and there's a concrete apron that runs across, which is what you see in the photo, runs across the whole front.
Well, it actually.
So that driveway doesn't look like it's a representation of what really was happening at that point,
The
because
concrete apron is actually this area right here, so.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if that's.
it shows it going all the way across.
No, it doesn't. It shows it going from here to here. So it could have been that driveway that's on the plan. But I don't know that actually.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
I guess maybe
Also-
my question would be directed to Lisa and Rich, which is, should this be reviewed for its coverage and whether or not drainage is adequate? As if we're sitting here today being asked to issue a variance, are we treating this as if this was an application coming before us that we should be able to understand if there's going to be any environmental impact? Because this would not have gone through erosion control, right?
You know, they didn't have that in 1986.
No.
Right, so should this now still follow the normal course of doing that? And
Rich, are you on?
He was
Oh.
having trouble.
He's
Yeah.
just
Cutting
Cutting
in and out.
Yeah.
He's cutting in and out.
You're also muted.
I'm cutting in and out.
I see now, Rich. How would you do that? How would you analyze infiltration and drainage? You're muted. You're muted right now. Okay.
Yeah, well, I didn't hear you. You broke up. What'd you say?
Okay. So Jonathan says, given that we don't know what kind of analysis was done for the exceedance of lot coverage, you know, back in 1986, how would you do that today? You know, how would you analyze that today, since they're not presently before you for an erosion control permit or drainage permit?
I'm trying to figure out if we're acting as a 1986 zoning board or if we're acting as a zoning board in 2021.
Well, I think you're acting as zoning board in 2021, but you're looking at a 1986 plan. So you got to look at it. This has been there 30 years. You know, what are you going to, you know, is it a problem or not? Can they, you know, obviously I don't think you're going to be able to move the house. Lot coverage you can do something about.
I think I'm only asking the question about, in a normal circumstance, this would have triggered an erosion control analysis, which would have taken a look at what remediation would have happened for water. It's only being exacerbated now. It's only being recognized now because of the lot coverage issue. And I'm really wondering if we're remiss in any way by not asking for evidence that this is not an issue.
Well, so I would interject on that basis that it's not within the zoning board's purview to make that assessment. So the lot coverage for zoning purposes is different than the calculations when they apply to the building permit, which I know they haven't done in this case. But for zoning purposes, it's more about
Visual.
No, but we have this test of environmental. One of the things we look at in an environmental situation is whether or not there be an effect on runoff.
Right.
And I'm only asking the question, it's something we were just looking at, Lisa. Is there a necessity for the applicant to put in an affirmative testimony to the fact that this will not create an environmental issue versus us making that assumption? Or can we make the assumption, since there have been no complaints, we've not heard about issues of puddling or issues where there's been a problem with drainage or runoff into other yards, can we make an educated assumption as a board to say this doesn't look like the coverage issue? The coverage, as it is stated, is creating an issue.
Well, I mean, it almost seems like essentially he's asking to legalize the lot coverage that's already there. Now, this board can look at all of the impermeable surface and see if there's some that can be taken out.
Well, no, I like the direction you're going. If what we're doing is not necessarily asking for a variance, but to approve the legalization based on the time that the building was built and the date of the application, again, saying that we're now a 1986 board, this requirement did not exist. They had the ability to build to this level in 1986 if lot coverage wasn't addressed. And why would a variance be required if it predates the code?
Well, so if it was actually, then it would be what, a pre-existing nonconformity, and it would only be considered by the zoning board if the present proposal would increase or exacerbate that. But it's not a pre-existing legal because it wasn't part, was never closed out. So
And the other thing, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
can I interrupt? The other thing is, Jonathan, if that additional paving was shown on the plan and approved back then, I think that would be different. So the additional paving wasn't. So that we have no idea when it happened. We don't know if it happened at the time or if it happened after we made laws, for our coverage or for adding, dry wells and the like.
I believe Mr. Parusnik is watching the meeting also, so maybe he could chime in on that.
Hello,
There he is.
hello. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. How you doing? Good evening, everybody. What was built by my contractor in the 80s was exactly to the plan. My driveway slopes down quite a bit, and there is a drainage system in front of the garage. In fact, it's probably one of the most hazardous spots as far as water going down completely. If you see, my car is parked right in the front. It's quite a slope to go down there. I actually, in my physical condition, I had trouble even walking down there. I had double drop foot. I had this plan originally put in the 80s. I hired a contractor. I had all the survey, all the permits done. Everybody saw what was happening. And then I found out a couple of years ago, after my illness took place, that there was an open permit. I was a dry cleaner at the time, and I've been a member of the community here since '86. I was an auxiliary policeman in the village for 20 years, village of Mamaroneck. I had no intention of causing any impact on environment. I had a plan drawn up by a licensed architect. Everyone inspected the work. I just wasn't aware of things like, I really didn't even know what a coverage was about, or I wasn't even aware of a C of O, and I thought the contractor had ended it. I thought everything was done, and then I found out a few years ago that it wasn't. I never received any mailings from the town to close out my my permit. Notices. Nothing. I mean, I was just ignorant to the fact of there was another step to be taken. And when I got sick and my wife and I decided this house might be a little too much for us to handle, which I cannot handle any longer, I had a real estate agent look at the situation, and she said that there was an outstanding permit. Nothing was ever added to the driveway. That little retainer wall that you might see had been changed during the years since it was starting to collapse down. It's basically the same wall. It didn't go off the sideline, didn't go any further into my neighbor's property. fact, my neighbor actually sent a letter to Francine via email stating that it was an existing thing and that, oh, here, it just popped up.
Did they-
So,
I have a question. Did
Yes.
did the driveway always have the footprint that it has today? In other words, the section between, from the garage door to the house, where it's all paved all the way up, was that always the case? Or was
yes,
that,
ma'am,
it was always
Yes.
paved like that?
always paved like that, man.
All right,
I've never added anything. Like I said, I volunteered my time to the village. I was on the Village of Largemont Parks and Recreation Committee. I mean, I've been a pretty good upstanding citizen here. I would never do anything to, I love the marsh in the back. I would never do anything. In fact, during my illness, that's part of the thing that kept me going is to be able to look at the beautiful scenery back there and the wildlife. I would never do anything to impact the neighborhood nor that sideline.
Look, I'm willing to take the position that since there have been no complaints, since we have not seen an issue of puddling or issues of runoff that have been complained to the building department or code enforcement, that we don't have an issue. I was only asking the question from the standpoint if this needed to trigger something. And I can accept the idea that this house would exist in this condition if it had been closed out in 1986. Since the issue of lot coverage predates, from 1996. It wasn't for 10 years later that lot coverage was being addressed in the zoning ordinances. So I'm just really for Lisa. I mean, is that
In addition,
is that
Jonathan,
reasoning sound?
in addition, the part of the problem that's exacerbating this lot coverage is the deck in the backyard, which is probably included, or I could ask the architect if that was included in your number, because that's a deck
It is.
over what looks to be a gravelled area. So that is, although considered lot coverage by our code, not creating a impervious.
Can I help you? Yes, I'll help you tomorrow.
I hear somebody speaking.
So is the deck included in the lot coverage calculation?
Yes,
And
Yes.
it would be for zoning, it wouldn't, because it's over 18 inches high, it wouldn't be for erosion and sediment for chapter 95.
Yeah, I mean, so Jonathan, I guess I would say that, but for the fact that they failed to close out the permit, this would be legally non-conforming because of what code changes have taken place after 1986. So,
So do you want us to address lot coverage, or could we be silent on the issue of lot coverage other than to say that the original plans predated the necessity for a lot coverage calculation, and all we should address are the side yard variance issues?
I think you do have to address the lot coverage, but I think we can talk about what mitigates it, which is basically that it's been in existence, for these 30 years. And as you just mentioned, no puddling, no runoff, no objections from neighbors.
And
Okay.
does this property back up to the wetlands?
yes,
There's no backyard neighbor. This is all thanks.
yes.
This is on that side of the street that runs to,
This is that marsh area,
The
wetland
marsh
area back
lands.
here. This is the property. If you can, I don't know if you can really see it in any pictures. I don't.
there's a massive wide open green space.
Yes,
Well, it's a natural drainage area.
yes.
Okay, I don't have any more questions.
All right, so then the motion would need to address the side yard encroachments, all the side yard encroachments and the lot coverage. And I think we covered why, the reasons of how to look at lot coverage.
all right. Rich, should we see if there are any questions from the audience?
There are no attendees and I have no emails.
Okay, good, good.
Did we enter into the record that email in support?
The letter,
A letter.
Francine, yes.
File.
All right. Do we make a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes.
Second.
Fine. All right, does anyone want to make the motion, or,
I can do this one also. if you want.
okay, if you want, or I can do it, but, oh, go ahead.
Okay, in case 3251, I'm going to bastardize the last name, Robert Pariznik.
That's it.
Close enough, okay. 14 Dean Place is seeking a variance to legalize an as-built addition on a property that has a side yard of 6.7 feet where 8 feet is required, has a side yard of 3.1 feet where 8 feet is required, and a combined side yard of 9.8 feet where 18 feet is required. Further, the deck has as built, has a side yard of 3.7 feet where 8 feet is required. And the lot coverage is 45% where 35% is permissible in an R6 zone. You think I can do these all at one shot, Lisa, or you want them separate?
I think
Okay,
you can do them. I think the side yards could be collapsed, even though you have, yeah, I think,
I'll do the side yards and deck, all of that together. The board in reviewing this application took into account the balancing of the benefit to the applicant with the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. In doing so, it determined whether or not an undesirable change in the neighborhood character, whether there would be an undesirable change in the neighborhood character or to nearby properties. The board finds that by approving this variance, there will be no effect whatsoever in change to the character of the neighborhood, as this addition has existed since the 1980s without complaint from anyone else. So it clearly is fitting within the character of the neighborhood. Many of the houses in this area also suffer from substandard lots and have very small side yard setbacks, so it is consistent with the balance of the neighborhood. Whether or not the benefit can be achieved by any other means feasible to the applicant, the only other opportunity here would be to demolish the addition that was here and to cut it back significantly. So the board finds there really is no feasible alternative to the applicant in this situation to address this. Whether the request is substantial, the request is not substantial as a previous zoning board had approved a variance for side yard setbacks, but the builder built to plans and didn't do perhaps proper measuring and built beyond the envelope of what was allowed within the original variance that was there. So the additional variance being granted is not substantial in the situation over and above what a previous zoning board had already allowed. Whether the request will have any adverse physical or environmental effects, I think the past 30 years have proven that there was no impact to the environment. Here from the perhaps additional coverage because of the setback. And it will not have any effects, or did not have any effects on other factors like air and light. Whether the alleged difficulty is self-created, the board would find that it is, I'm going to go on a limb, not self-created by the current applicant, as it appears that the builder perhaps did not properly build to what was allowable out there. Regardless, it's not determinative. Each of those goes to talk to each of the setback issues as they relate to the house and to the deck. On the issue of coverage, the board would also put the same factors in place, whether an undesirable change in the neighborhood character to nearby properties. The same would apply that there's been no complaint because of the lot coverage. It may have created additional runoff or puddling or pooling. There's never been a complaint that this board is aware of. Whether or not there's anything that could be done by the applicant that would help to mitigate the coverage, the board would find that it is minimal what could be done. Some of the macadam could be removed, but that's going to be negligible in its approach. It would also be noted that at the time that this building was put in place, it predated the issue of coverage. So in 1982, this coverage would have been allowable. So it had not been addressed by the previous zoning board. Whether the request is substantial, the board would find, once again, it's not substantial on the same grounds that it would have been allowable at the time that this was originally having been built. Whether the request will have any adverse physical or environmental effects, since it existed for a long period of time, it has not proven to have any long-term environmental effects. So in the board's opinion, it won't have any impact. And whether the difficulty was self-created, it was not self-created for the same reasons, but also is non-determinative. You good with that?
Mike,
Does everyone agree with those findings?
yes, I
Second,
did a great job, Jonathan. No, that was well done. I second it.
Irene,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
Carol,
Yes.
Steve,
yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. Thanks.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you, Mark.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as I modified them. I don't know if you circulated those modifications, Lisa?
Oh, I didn't, but I'll just quickly go to what it was. I had an extra word, an extra is. Let's see.
Bottom of page 4, it said, stated that one is tree when the pool is located.
Yeah.
That one tree is where the, whatever, however you want to redo that. And
Yeah,
noted-
I wrote, he stated that one tree where the pool is to be located is dead and the other is so close to, that's how I did it.
And the other thing I noted was we didn't note in all of the cases that they were duly noted. So I'm assuming all the cases were duly noted, so we would note that.
I think we might have, no, we didn't. I might have asked Francine at the beginning, but sometimes I do that. Have all these applications been duly noticed? So I'll add that to the beginning.
Yeah, because we specifically noted it in case 2, but didn't notice it in the other cases.
What am I, Kat?
So with those changes, I would make a motion to accept the minutes.
You're silly. Yes.
I'm gonna bring my dog in to chase the cat away.
He's pretty
Very
brave.
expressive tail.
Oh, he's an expressive cat. He's very funny. Aren't you, Bear? His name's Bear.
So who seconds the minutes?
Second.
Okay.
all in
I think I
favor?
can vote.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
I'm Bear.
unanimous.
Any abstentions?
I wasn't I was only there as an alternate last time, so I can't vote, right?
Yeah, you should abstain. So Francine, would you take a roll call, please?
Irene. Irene,
Yes.
Okay.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Vin,
Yes,
Robin,
Yes.
and one abstain. Okay.
all right.
When's our next meeting?
November.
17th,
We normally don't have it the day before Thanksgiving.
the week before, the 17th.
17th, okay.
In person. In person?
Yes, please.
Are we having it in person or
Yes, I prefer it in person.
I can get a room?
Well, let's
Who's saying
also
that?
see how many applications we have. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the one where we had 10 applications was really hard to have in person in that little room.
Mhm.
Irene, did you say you wanted in person?
I personally, I prefer it in person. I think it runs more smoothly, but that's me, but I'll go with whatever the consensus view is. How many matters do we have so far next month? Do you know, Francine?
Don't have any as of yet, but about 10 things went out.
So we might have 10.
I don't think we'll have 10, but I think we're
Okay.
gonna have a decent amount.
All right. Is,
I'll go with either way. It doesn't matter.
is there anyone who has a preference for remote?
I like remote, but I mean, you wouldn't, that's,
Yeah,
I mean,
All right. Well, I think, why don't we wait and see how many applications are on the agenda and see what kind of quorum we have, and we can make that decision. That decision doesn't have to be made at an open meeting.
Fine. Okay.
okay. We have to make it in enough time to notice it, right? So that everybody knows this.
That's true, actually. So I guess Rich and Francine, keep track of when your timeframes are and send out an email and let us know.
Because there's less time since it's not gonna be,
Yeah, the 17th is pretty close.
Yeah.
It's
2 weeks
next week, I
notice.
think.
3 weeks. It's 3
That
weeks.
gets into the 3rd.
No, but we have to let everybody know by next week because you're
Yeah.
noticed 14 days prior.
If you want to just schedule it as remote, that's fine.
Well, let's see what we get. I have nothing in as of yet, but a whole bunch of people want to come in.
And even if it's scheduled remote, if we decide to meet in person, that's okay, I guess, as long as, well, actually, I take that back because then that messes up with LMC TV.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out by next Tuesday,
Okay.
Fine.
okay?
okay.
I
All
had
right, thank
I had a
you.
very general question that came up from tonight's seminar.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a provision for a waiver authority in the town code for special use permits?
Well, first of all, this is not the body that does special use permits.
I thought
No,
we,
it's not the planning board. Under our code, the planning board has jurisdiction for special use permits.
then why did we see the
Because
sign issue on CVS?
sign isn't special use.
Why do we see the lighted signs?
Because
Lighting.
that's a zoning. Zoning doesn't permit internally lit signage,
Okay, I thought that was special use. Okay,
which is crazy because everything has lights.
okay. Very good. Have a good day.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Good night, everybody.